Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, I'm going to be recapping round 2 of the holiday action quads held here at Chess Zone. And as I said in the first video, this is a tournament that I was really excited to play in because I just wanted to take a breather from all the schoolwork and going into senior year, and wanted to give myself a little holiday treat and see how my over-the-board chess is faring out while being inactive for a couple months. And in the second round, I'm playing against this kid named Joshua. Hopefully I say his last name right. Chelladorai. Joshua, if you're watching, next time we see each other, you can tell me in the comments how you say your last name. But I'm gonna go with saying Joshua Chelladorai, if that's cool. And Joshua's a really strong kid. He's the highest rated fourth/fifth grader in the state of Georgia. He's not the best elementary schooler, though. That title belongs to Alexander Joseph, who you may have heard of because I've played him once. But I think Joshua would definitely be second best elementary schooler, but the best in the 4th or 5th grade. So he obviously picked up chess really early, and yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and jump straight into the action. All right, Joshua opens the game with e4. I reply with e5 as usual. And here Joshua already gets me out of my comfort zone, already confuses me, befuddles me. He plays this move c3, which I have never seen before. Maybe once or twice online, if even that, but over the board, I've never seen this. I didn't even know this opening has a name. Apparently it's called the McLeod attack, and it's played very rarely for obvious reasons because it blocks the normal developing square of the knight, and it's just very unconventional. So yeah, the McLeod attack, and while the opening may seem weird and unorthodox, because it was new to me, the opening, I quickly fell apart because I didn't know how to reply to it. So I go ahead and play knight f6, and he goes d4, as expected. That was the whole point of playing c3. And I was debating two things here. Either to take for the knight to take the pawn on e4, or to trade pawns on d4. The better move is knight takes e4. And I saw that white can go queen e2 to line up with the king. But best move for black is to play d5 to keep the knight there. But white can just boot the knight out with f3. And for those of you wondering, queen h4 check is not a good move. Normally, when you push your f-pawn and the knight's on e4 like this, queen h4 check is a very powerful move, but not here. It's because after g3, knight takes g3, white can play this move queen takes e5 check, and it's just a simple fork on the knight and the king. So just pointing that out, that queen h4 check is not a good move here. So the best move is to retreat the knight, to go to d6. And after here, I can already see how this opening is weird. You move your knight to f5, and white can play g4, and then you move your knight to h4. So let's just go back a second. You moved your knight. Okay, you moved it to h4, that was one time. You moved it to f5, that was twice. You moved it to d6, that was 3 times. And yeah, your knight was basically galloping across the center like for 4 moves in a row. So that's just pure wackiness. So yeah, going into this line, like I don't even know how to go about this opening. But that didn't happen because I instead played e takes d4, and he played e5, which is what I was expecting. And I was debating going about this one of two ways. Either going knight d5, in which case after a move like this, we get an Alekhine's defense sort of position, which case, because the knight is on d5 and there are 2 center pawns, this is kind of like the Alekhine's defense. But I go queen e7 to pin the pawn to the king. He goes to c takes d4. I go d6, knight f3, knight c6, and white's advantage is slowly growing. He plays the move bishop to b5, and I'm already down a few minutes on time here because this opening is new to me and I'm sort of feeling in the dark what to do. I don't really have a concrete idea of what moves are good or what moves are good, which moves are better than others. So I was thinking for like 6 minutes here about what the best move is. Maybe it's bishop d7, but then white castles. And let's see, after a pawn trade, the knight can go to e4. And after a move like queen e2, this is just unpleasant. And if you try to retreat your knight, white gets all sorts of fun with moves like bishop to g5, and white is just doing really well here. I was also thinking about playing the move knight to d7 to block off the bishop's scope on the diagonal. But this is even worse. White's already at +2 here because castles takes d5. And let's say you go, I don't know, knight d4, knight takes, and then all of a sudden you lose your queen. So this is how bad this situation can become. And the best move here is actually to just take the pawn on e5, which I didn't do. I ended up playing the move a6 after a few minutes of thought, which it's a bad move, but it's not one of the worst moves that I showed earlier. So he goes ahead and takes the knight on c6, and then castles, as I expected. And now my knight actually is under attack because the pawn isn't pinned anymore. I go knight d5, he lines up with my king, and this is scary. Like, my queen's on e7, he's about to rip open the e-file, and the only move here for me to stay in the game is bishop e6, to try to close down the e-file. He goes knight c3, I go ahead and take, and then I play queen d7. I shift my queen over a square to give my bishop some room to develop and then hopefully castle. He goes knight g5 though. He's being very annoying with his pieces. Bishop e7. I go ahead and ask the knight, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to move back or are you going to take my bishop? He ended up taking my bishop. And for you viewers watching, which way do you think I should take back? With the pawn or with the queen? Hopefully you did not say queen takes, because after e takes d6, queen takes d6, you just open the e-file, and white is going to have a free ticket to your bishop. So after a4, let's say you castle here, white is going to play bishop a3, and you're going to lose your bishop on e7 unless you take and get a rook and a bishop for a queen, but this is not nearly enough. So it's way better here to take with the pawn and close the e-file. He goes queen h5 check, I go g6, and he goes queen h6. And at queen h6, he's preventing me from castling. He's controlling the f8 square. And, okay, the top move here is d5, which makes sense at first. You want to keep the center closed, as I mentioned. But what about this move, queen to g7? It seems like white's infiltrating. The only move here is long castles. And surprisingly, even though white's better, it's not by much. It's only 0.6. And I find that very hard to believe because, based on the arrows I've drawn, white can get full access to the b-file and create some sort of mating threats, and my pawns are shattered on the queen side. I do not think this is a 0.6 position. I think this is at least +1 or even +2 for that matter, because my king is pretty much it's like the front windows of the bungalow the king is staying at. They're shattered, and soon all sorts of wild animals can enter the bungalow through the windows. I don't know. It's a weird saying again. The point is that the king is not safe, or doesn't look safe. So for that reason, I kick the queen away. I play bishop f8, goes queen h3, and I go d5 to shut down the center. He was threatening, by the way, if I, let's say, go bishop g7, he was threatening to just open the center right away and play rook e6 next move. So that's why I had to shut down the center. He goes bishop h6, which I thought was a good move, but after a few minutes of thought, I realized he just liquidated. He got rid of an attacking piece, and I go ahead and play rook to f8. He goes rook to b1, and rook a to b1, sorry. And here, I accept the fact that I'm not going to castle this game. I've already moved my rook on f8, and if I try to castle here, okay, I don't know why the eval didn't shoot up that much. It says it's a good move, but like, who would castle here? Let's be real here. So rook f8, rook b1. I go queen f7. I'm threatening to take his pawn on f2, while at the same time giving my king some room to go on d7, and that's where my king will basically be sitting for the majority of the game. So after he played f3 to defend himself against the mate, or against the threat of taking an f2. Oh, also I should mention, he still has a steady time advantage. So after king to d7, the pawns highlighted in red are acting as my cover, acting as my shield. That's the only sort of protection I'll have against white's pieces. So I'll make do. And white is up 12 minutes on time here, 47 to 35. Joshua here rotates his queen to d2, perhaps trying to get involved on the queen side. And now it's basically a dead draw now, because I go rook f to b8. He goes rook b2, and engine somehow says you just take the rook. And why would you give white access to the b file for no reason? I didn't see any sort of good in that, any sort of value in that. So I go ahead and play rook b6. I'm saying, hey, you can trade rooks with me, but I'll undouble my pawns. You trade in my terms. So we each bring our rooks to the b file, and then he goes rook b3, queen f5, and I'm actually threatening something here. Let's say he goes g3, just a random move. I'm threatening to play this. Rook takes, and it doesn't matter where the king goes. I'm threatening to bring the other rook to b2, and the queen's pinned, and I'll just be completely winning. I'll be up a rook. So that was the threat. Hope chess. I'm hoping he didn't see it. Of course he saw it. He played rook b2, rook 1 to b2. I go ahead and play g5. That way the queen can never enter h6. I just block it off. Okay, now he decides to trade rooks on b6. I take with the rook. He goes queen e2. I go ahead and trade rooks with him, and we enter this queen endgame. Queen and, let's see, queen and 6 pawn, queen and 7 pawns endgame, sorry. And then I go ahead and play h5, maybe trying to create some sort of, trying to chip away at white's king side a little bit. If I play h4, h3, I can maybe soften the pawns like that, maybe create some sort of attack. That's why I played h5. He goes queen d2, I play h4, queen b2, queen d3, and he's still up on time. He's now up only 5 minutes as opposed to 12 minutes earlier. King f2, queen d1, and here he played this move king e3, which I do not understand at all, because for one, it allowed me to go here and get a fork on the king and the h2 pawn, so he just gave me a pawn for free. But even better, apparently, is going queen e1 check. You can't block like this because you lose the c3 pawn. And if you go here, the engine just says to go c5 and chip away at white's pawn chain. And after something like this, white is just getting chipped away at. The pawn on h2 is weak. Black's threatening a check. White's pawns are doubled, and black is doing much better. So after king e3, I didn't play queen e1. I went queen g1. He played queen f2. I take in his h2 pawn. He goes back to e2. I play queen f4, queen e3. For some reason here, I was thinking for a long time if trading queens was going to result in a winning king and pawn endgame. And after I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of thought, I decided to trade queens. Thankfully, this ended up being a good move. I am totally winning in this king and pawn endgame. He takes back. I go king e7. King f2, king f7, g3. And here I actually mess up. I mess up and played this move king g6, and now it's a draw. I threw away my advantage. King g6 is a draw because white can play this move g4, which I actually saw when thinking about playing king g6. He does not let my king enter, but I thought it was fine because I could just enter through the queen side. And what's white going to do? White's going to have to guard my h4 pawn because it's a protected passed pawn. So I'm like, okay, white's going to go here to try to get active. White can't go too far. And see, the eval already says black's winning. But white is going to hang tight close to the pawn, king g2. And if I try to venture my way over to the queen side, white's going to go king h3. And if I go here, white has this move f4. And let's say I take, king takes. I have to bring my king here, g5, king f7, king g4. These are like only moves, the next several moves. King g6, king takes f4, king h5. Only move here is to go a3 to not be put in zugzwang. c5. Both sides have to play carefully in order not to lose. D takes c5, c6, a4, a5. And then white has to cleverly give up the pawn like this. And after I take, white is just going to mirror me, and I cannot get in. So that would result in a draw. But, of course, I did not see that far. Okay, I don't know why I repeated that so many times. Let me just go back here. Sorry, just bear with me here. Okay, so only move here to win is to play h takes g3 check, king takes, and then advance the king like this. White will try to go here, and then you just wait, and white can either move backwards, in which you advance your king, or play f4, in which you trade, and then you go king h5. So that's how black is winning. So king g6. Thankfully, he does not play g4. He plays king g2, and I go ahead and play h takes g3. And now this is easy. King h3. That doesn't help him. King takes g3 is the same. I knew I'm winning here because I saw that I could put white in zugzwang with c5. Thankfully, I had this option. If I didn't have a waiting move with c5, this would probably end up being a draw. But thankfully, I have c5 as a waiting move. Moves the king back. I first trade, advance my king, and this is pretty easy. I play g4. We get a trade. And then I slowly outflank him. I win the pawns. I push my c pawn and make a queen. I check him. I go here. Tries to promote, but it's too slow. Queen d6. Gives up the pawn. Queen takes e7, king b8, king d6, king a8, king c6, king b8, and after queen to b7 checkmate, I get the job done, and from being worse in the opening, I managed to turn the tables and checkmate Joshua. So this was a tough game, because, again, going back to the opening, I was totally lost on how to go about it. But luckily, we managed to navigate through the fog and find our way accordingly. And we had to make some adjustments, such as putting our king on d7. And that ended up working because we ended up winning the game. So yeah, if we take a look at the accuracy here, Joshua had an accuracy of 79.9, and I had an accuracy of 87. I think 79.9 is a little harsh. I think Joshua played better than that. But nonetheless, I'm happy we won the game, regardless of the accuracy. And I currently have a score of 1.5 out of 2. My brain was pretty fried after that game, and I had to play my last game pretty soon after. So that was fun. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you guys for watching. If you like content like this, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll post the last recap shortly. Have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.